Today, instead of a neat and modern fantasy map, we're making something a little more dangerous. A smuggler's map of the broken shores, the kind of map your players might find rolled into an old bottle, hidden behind a tavern beam, or still clutched in the hand of someone who didn't make it home. Maps like this have a long tradition. Medieval sailors filled theirs with compass roses and landmarks and warnings, and fiction gave us treasure maps marked with crosses and stains and the hurried notes of those who drew them. We're going to borrow from both. A practical sailor's chart and a storybook from a smuggler. Hello adventurers, and welcome back to the Red Quills for day 13, the lucky number of this Red Quills Mapvember challenge. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, this challenge means that I'm going to be making a video every day, but more than that, it means that we're creating a community-led fantasy atlas. If you want more details on that, then you can check out the linked video, which is the start of this challenge. You can look at the Discord, which is in the link in the description below. You can find the downloadable maps on the Patreon, and you can just leave a comment to let me know that you're interested, because I'm always happy to chat. So I have now done 13 days of this challenge. I'm not quite halfway. I've got a couple of days before I'm halfway, so I'm not going to get ahead of myself, and I'm certainly not flagging in any way, shape, or form. I am just as energized and happy-go-lucky as I was at the beginning of this challenge. So please let me know that you're still watching. I always love to hear your comments and your support. So like this video, subscribe, and tell me how much you love the maps in the comments below. If you've got requests as well, let me know. I do have a list of all the things that I want to get done this month. But if you do want to see a specific kind of map, now is the time to tell me, because I've worked off this list for now 13 days, and I'm looking for a bit of variety. And speaking of which, what I want to do today is moving a little bit off book of what I've been doing in previous videos. So far, I've done a lot of the style of the really quick maps videos, in which I take an A4 sheet of paper and a few fineliner pens, and I create a layer, and the focus is on making a map of a layer in which the environment is as much of a combat challenge as the creatures themselves, which is honestly, it's very fun and I like doing it, but I kind of want to stretch my aesthetic legs today. So I want to create a map that's going to be fun for me to make, technically speaking, as much as it is interesting for me to chart. So what we're going to do is we're going to get out our handy dandy watercolor sheets. This is an A3 sheet of 180 GSM cold pressed watercolor paper, and I'm going to grab out my high intensity watercolor pigments, and I'm going to start painting. Now, earlier in the series, I did say that I was going to make the colors for this world yellow and purple, and then I worked mostly in fine liners, and it never came up again until today. So I'm going to keep working in that yellow. I've got a lovely gold here that I'm going to refer to, and as I sketch it out, I'm going to talk about the purpose of today's map, which is creating a smuggler's map for D&D. Now, most campaigns I've ever played in have always kind of focused on the players and the party as being heroes. And more than that, heroes of a specific kind. They're adventurers, they're monster slayers, they're, the warriors of yore. They have a distinct role within society, and that role is to rush headlong into danger and not think through the consequences of their actions. And if that isn't a mood, then I don't know what is. But today we're going to talk about how to make a map for a different kind of campaign, one in which your heroes are on the outside of the law, and which, that happens all the time. Pirate campaigns are, par for the course. Everyone loves Han Solo. But what I wanted to do was make a map that felt as practical as the map that we made previously a few days ago for the trading map of the sea. And in that, I added so much detail about world building that was specific to that map. And I wanted to add a lot of world building to this map in a way that was really specific to the underbelly of society, but also, the pirate underbelly rather than the criminal underbelly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sketch a small portion of the coastline using this watercolor paint, so that we can see what the coastline looks like. And I'm choosing the broken shores as the setting for this particular map. The broken shores, of course, everything in this world is a part of Anarchos, which is the portion of Requiem that I chose to be where I'm creating the maps for this challenge. It is where long ago the creator god fell out of the sky and strewed the coast with broken stones as he fell onto the mountains. So he bounced off the mountains, created the broken shores, and then flopped into the sea, as gods do. And so this area is just an absolute minefield for ships. It's filled with dangers and hidden eddies and false currents and reefs. And it's perfect then for pirates who don't want to be found. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sketch out the irregular archipelagos here, all of the different islands, and the rivers that are sailable. So what I'm going to do is rivers that you can take a boat up, I'm going to have as block colors. Other rivers are just going to be dotted. And once I finish painting it, which honestly is one of the most time-consuming parts of doing this map, but it's fine, I found it relaxing, is then I'm going to come through with the Fineliner pens and I'm going to start adding in some actual details here. So I do have the white paint pen that I use to give highlights on my illustrations, and I'm going to use that to show a couple of things. Firstly, the title, and then the compass. But also, I'm going to use it to show the trading routes that are near to the broken shores. Obviously, most boats will avoid the reefs, especially legal boats, because they don't want to sink. Pirates love it, and high-keeled skiffs will. But knowing where the trading route is obviously extremely significant for the pirates, because they're going to be preying upon those merchantmen. I'm also going to do a bit of decoration to show where the coastlines are and highlight a little bit more where those islands can be. And I'm going to use some dotting to show some below sea level sandbars. Now, those hidden sandbars are extremely important to know for navigation purposes, and any sailor worth their salt will have them marked somewhere on a map. So I didn't want to show too many details of where the tides are going to be, because that's time consuming. It's going to make the coastlines look messy. But I do want to show where those sandbars are at low tide. So when low tide comes up, there's, even more islands than there currently are. And if you're sailing with a ship that has a low keel, then you'll want to avoid those areas. So once we've gone through and we've created the sandbars, we've outlined the islands, we've done the major trading routes, I'm going to go through with the Fineliner pens and I'm going to add more details. What kind of details do we add to a smuggler's map, Ryan? I hear you say. Well, here's some ideas. First things we want to look at are navigational hazards or secret routes. So we've already done the sandbars. We want to look at unmarked channels, tidal windows, hidden anchorage, and silent approach. So what we want to do is think about, if you've got a ship, where is going to be safe for you to stop, where is going to be safe for you to attack, and where is going to be dangerous otherwise. Then you've got to think about where the smuggling is. And for that, I've got a few settlements marked on the map. I'm going to highlight the hostile ones to pirates as being reds, and the ones that are open to trading with smugglers as being white. And between the two of them, we've got a few of those different settlements around, and that gives us a few different ports of call. Not only that, I'm going to add in some lighthouses, because those are extremely significant for navigating, particularly on choppy waters like this. However, lighthouses need to be maintained. They need supplies. They need someone to man them. And so in order to keep them maintained, we're going to add in some supply routes and some patrol routes for the local towns, the ones that are hostile towards pirates. So as we go through and show where the supply routes are and where the patrols are, it's important to remember that it is still a dangerous area, and a government won't want to risk their resources on what is essentially a suicide mission. So they're going to choose the safest areas to patrol in order to keep the pirates as far away from the cities as they can. But that means that their movements, their locations, will be very easy for the pirates to spot if they've got scouts. So the map will show where hostile forces are going to be. Obviously, we're also going to name everything because, it's a map. We're supposed to do that. But in addition, I'm going to highlight a few other things. For instance, where the lookout points are, where hidden caches are, where sea caves and sea grottos might be, any slipways or secret coves that we want. All of the individual areas that could be of use to a smuggler or a pirate or are important to know. Now, of course, we have already mentioned where the enemies are. We've shown which settlements are friendly. We've shown which ones are enemies. We've shown the patrol routes and the supply lines. But there are other things to show as well as the lighthouses. We can show watchtowers. We can show the ambush spots. So I've shown them with the hatching here, agreed upon ambush sites between the various pirates, because the other thing we're going to mark is where the various pirate factions have their bases. And there is more than one. And if you've got different territories claimed by different pirates, then you're going to need more details on what that means as well, where their base of operations is, where you've got safe or agreed upon anchoring zones, where you do coordinated raids, where you go in order to parley, where the fences are, where the goods are in demand, whether you've got risk codes for communicating between the various factions. All of these come together. And then finally, I put the courts themselves, the courts of the individual pirates, of which I've got 3 on this map, but I hint at a 4th in the compass with different triangular symbols. And the question that arises when I was creating this map, and I was thinking to myself, you know what? If I was a pirate and I had a court, for instance, and I wanted to hide that court from various law enforcement, you know, how would I do that? And obviously, the answer to that question is, in a magical world, underwater. So these 3 courts also have, in addition to their names, their depth beneath the surface of the water, which is handily marked, not only in terms of their latitude and longitude, but in terms of their altitude as well. So that a person who wants to find each of the individual courts can, you know, chuck a water breathing on in some manner and then just sink on down. Or perhaps they have gates that are magically enchanted to allow the entire ship to head beneath the surface into an underground series of caves. So those kinds of details are important to remember when you're creating a magical world's Smuggler's map as well. And overall, when we finished, we've got something that looks quite good. Again, a little less to talk about in this map than I've had in previous maps, but I have to say I actually really enjoyed making this map. The process of it was very enjoyable, and I got to stretch those artistic legs a little bit. What do you think of this map? I would be very, very keen to hear what kind of details you would add to your own maps, what specific areas you focus on when creating a smuggler or a pirate's map as well. And I know what you're all waiting for, the challenge for tomorrow. So our daily challenge for tomorrow is to create an island. I thought I would stick to this theme, and what I am going to challenge you to do is to create an island that is a one-shot campaign in and of itself. I'm going to call mine Selkradis, but the prompt is just to create an island that is a one-shot adventure. How do you break the island up into different areas? What different zones do you have for how the quest progresses over time? And what enemies are you going to stick on this particular island? I'm going to do mine tomorrow, and I will see you then for that video. But until then, happy mapping. I hope you're getting all this. What else am I going to add? Selkradis. Oh, right. Okay.